right, this is very exciting for a number of reasons. We all work on a show together. Before I introduce everyone, before we get into our topic, I think it's important for people that aren't familiar with our show, you get a sense of flavor for what we're all a part of. So if you guys want to roll the video first so we can set the sort of the mood.
The Champions League is back. The crew is back.
Hello, America.
That's how we like it. That's how it goes. The atmosphere in this stadium is incredible.
The fans believe that anything is possible.
For the players, it means everything.
Fox Sports. We're on CBS. I apologize.
We're all gonna get sacked.
Mr. David.
You can't hear.
And Ryan saves again.
Every time.
Goal! It's Dan Van Dijk.
You see the shape 4-2-4.
You reckon you take him on in your prime?
All day. You know what?
And he's going to be on the ails tonight, just like Rod.
It's a brilliant finish.
Can you please keep your hands off people and stop touching them?
Nneka, you were my idol.
Accept my apology.
Now I prefer cake.
Yes.
He misses in 7. What has changed to now?
I'm happy that I understood your question.
Do you recommend a style of dance?
Reggaeton. 1, 2.
Oh my God.
Why are you losing your head? I do not understand.
Rest lover.
Yes.
Kundi extraordinaire.
Night. See you then.
Ciao tutti.
So I'm very, very proud of that show. I've done a lot of stuff in my career. Far and away, the thing I'm most proud of is being a part of that, being a part of that from the beginning. And from the beginning, we had Peter Schmeichel, who I want to introduce first from the stage left. Anita Jones, you may have seen earlier, and is one of our reporters. This is about their perspective, best seat in the house. Matt and I are producers on the show. So we've got both sides, a little bit of role reversal here. So we're going to be asking the questions of the reporters. Normally it's the reporters asking questions of others. But basically the concept here is that we've created this studio show, Matt and I, from the production side, talent, everyone, that's become a phenomenon around the world. Just for context of how popular our show's become, and here's Kate Scott, by the way, our leader. Just for context of how popular we've become around the world through social media, this past season, we've had views around the world all across all our socials of 4 billion with a B views. Every media company in the world and would ask, where do we sign for that? How do we create that magic? How did that all happen? The 4 people at the desk obviously are a big part of it, but another huge secret weapon for us is our sideline reporters. So I'm going to let Matt explain sort of in a more traditional, Matt comes from British television. He is British, as you'll hear, but more traditional British television. I came in as the American with a little bit more out there ideas, and we got together. But there's a traditional way of doing Peter and Anita's job before we hear from them that I think Matt could sort of set what the norms were before us.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I mean, I think the role of the reporter, the journalist, the broadcasters, which these two are, I think has quite a kind of traditional role across the world. The football match finishes, they get put in a room, they do interviews, people react. It's kind of normal, standard, kind of happens everywhere. When we started 5 years ago, we were the small guys. We were the American broadcasters coming into a European competition. Nobody really knew us. We didn't have a profile. Like we didn't have anything. And so a whole kind of process of relationship started 5 years ago. Pete and I working with the clubs, working with UEFA, and essentially what we were sort of trying to build was trust. We wanted to try and do things a little bit differently, but you can't just say to people, we're going to do things a little bit differently. You have to kind of get them to kind of buy in with as to what you're doing. And you can only do that by doing it, really, getting them to trust you. So Pete and I's job was to try and convince them. Maybe that's the kind of the easier part. These two are on the ground, and a game finishes. There's a million broadcasters there. Everyone kind of wants to kind of get their interviews, and as they'll explain to you shortly, that was quite hard at the beginning. Why would we go on CBS? Americans and soccer and football doesn't always kind of add up compared to a German, a French, a British broadcaster. So these guys on the ground in a short amount of time, in a stressful amount of time, had to work with players, clubs, agents, and gain their trust. And as they'll explain to you in a sec, to begin with, that wasn't easy. Now, fast forward 5 years, I don't think we're talking ourselves up too much.
It's crazy.
We have players queuing up.
Yeah,
and sometimes we're in uncomfortable situations where, and Peter always tells this story better than me, of players will come out after a game, where's CBS? Where's CBS? Yeah. Can I talk to CBS? None of that would have happened if these guys didn't do the quality of job that they do. Yes, we want people to feel comfortable. We want people to feel relaxed when they talk to us. You can't just flick a switch and say, be relaxed. You have to earn that. I'm going to go ladies first. Anita, how would you say that you've earned that?
It helps being alongside Peter Schmeichel, of course, Manchester United legend. So naturally, when I'm pitch side with him at a game, you'll have ex-players coming along to give him a hug. Maybe he'll whisper something in their ear. We saw it a couple of times this season with Gianluigi
players up for
Buffon.
Manchester United most of the time.
Probably a harder job now.
They were not in the Champions League, so don't go there.
But no, with Buffon, it happened a couple of times this season, and I think you probably helped him with that journey to the final. But yeah, being alongside Peter with his wealth of experience, knowing what it's like to be in those match environments has definitely helped me because I joined the group later on. I've just finished my second season. But in terms of speaking to players after they've lost, I think it depends on the weight of the game. When you're talking to them in the league phase of what this new format, it doesn't carry as much weight, but later on in the tournament, if they're being knocked out, then you're having to manage, I guess, emotions because they're raw, they've just been knocked out. Maybe they thought they'd get through to the next stage. And then also, given that I do other work, I work in the Premier League, so sometimes I see these players and managers in other instances. So you're trying to get the journalistic line, but also manage relationships there.
I think. Sorry if I can jump in. Maybe pick a couple of case studies that we've kind of had from this season. Peter, you can have the fun one. Anita, you can have the more journalistic one if you like. So talk about maybe our relationship with PSG this season, Champions League winners.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously built up a really good relationship with PSG for a number of different reasons. We've never really... So I don't like the idea of me as a player coming out after a game and talking to a journalist that's looking for an angle. Because as you say, the emotions are still out, the adrenaline is still... So I'm trying really hard not to push him too much. Of course, at times, you have to do stuff. You did something which was absolutely fantastic with Arteta. Arteta said something that was really stupid. Instead of pulling him in and say, whoa, your look told everything. And it was brilliant. And it was so respectful. I mean, Anita is an Arsenal supporter, so... you were a bit sad as well. But these kind of things, I think they are important, that you respect the people that you speak to. And it's interesting when you talk about in the beginning 5 years ago, where we were. So we were in Portugal. I was with Alex Scott in Portugal. So we were one of two of the fortunate people who could be at the end games of the first Champions League that we had. Obviously, no crowd. It was during lockdown and COVID, and they needed to finish the Champions League. And we were placed in the far corner. Absolutely, you couldn't get further away. And in the Stadio de Luz, where the final was played as well, we were placed where it was open in the corner as well, and it was windy as hell, and it was freezing cold. It was quite miserable, to be fair. Where we are now, we are never host broadcasters because we are American.
Right.
We never ever host broadcasters. They've got privileges, host broadcasters. They got first choice of everything. But we are nearing our first choice. We're near enough. We have the best positions in flash. We have the best positions on the pitches. And the players are coming up to us and asking, even the coaches, I mean, we never get refused. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, I think the way that the program is, it's good fun. It ties in with the current generation of football players, how they view the world, how they, spend a lot of time on social media. So it ties in with their way of living, their way of seeing the world. I think the respect that we give them as well, I think that plays in as well. And we've been kind of a source of, if somebody has a message, we provide them with the platform. And the first one, we spoke about that a little bit earlier today. The first time I realized that was a couple of years back when Liverpool hosted Real Madrid. And they were 2-0 up in 5 minutes, and Real Madrid ended up winning that game 5-2. It was after the final. That was the first time they met after the final. They played in Paris. Now, that was a really, really bad day for Liverpool. And we were outside on the pitch with the camera, and all of a sudden, we get Liverpool's communications director coming out to us and said, Virgil van Dijk wants to talk to you. Fine. That was the first time it happened. He came out and he clearly had a message. He clearly wanted us, CBS, to be the carrier of that message. He wanted to explain what had gone wrong. He used us. That was the first time I realized that we were in that position. And that comes from how the studio is, how respectful they are, even though it's a lot of fun, and also how we've connected with the people over the years on location. Because I tell you, there's a lot of reporters out there, and sometimes you listen into what they're asking, and you go, wow, this guy will never come back to you again.
They're probably in hip here.
No, I mean, none from here.
I think it's really important to sort of explain one thing that we've done that I'm proud of. So we're traditional television, right? We're traditional television. We started 5 years ago, and traditional television worries about the television audience. Traditional television, Matt and I grew up in traditional television when social media started, and it was looked down upon because it was annoying. We're doing stuff for millions of people. Why do I care about Facebook for my kids and blah, blah, blah? It's just annoying. And it became sort of this stigmatized form of media in traditional media. And so it was always separated. So you'd have traditional producers, directors that would look at the social media team. All right, you guys go stay over there. Maybe we'll give you a couple minutes, whatever. When we started, we actually, the words, you're sitting either next to us or right behind us because we need you. We don't have a platform in Europe. There's no way for players to see us. We're on in America. You're going to be our marketing. You're going to be our PR. You're going to be our press release. You're going to be our voice, our microphone. So how does Virgil van Dijk see us unless we have social media as part of our infrastructure? We embraced it, which is incredibly, incredibly rare. Even in 2025, still doesn't happen on a level that we do it. So from day one, we realized that we needed them. Obviously, they were happy to help. So what we've done is we've built this social media giant. Our platforms are insane. Well, I think at the finals that just happened on Instagram alone, I think we had probably in the 30s of million plus posts. Some of them were 20 million, some of them were 25 million, 18 million. The views we have around the world are nobody else gets this. So who sees that? The players. So the players want to get the word out to the world. Where are they going to go? To Sky, who's only on in England, or to Sky Italia, who's only on in Italy, or do they want to speak to us that goes to the world? So that was kind of the reverse engineer way we did this. And of course, it had to be fun and a safe place. So I mean, the one thing I'll say is, so we talked about the best seat in the house. In theory, sometimes, we could sit here and say, why do we even pay these guys? They get to watch the game pitch side. They get to mingle with the players. They get to hang out with managers. Like, it seems like a very glorious job, glamorous job. You have the best seat in the house, the biggest events. You were just at a Champions League final. Why are we paying you, Peter? Why is that not the best seat in the house?
Well, you shouldn't ask that question,
I think
what we do is, and this is, I think that's the biggest part of our job is, it's not so much pre-game. We can get from other sources that are there, you can get a little bit of information, but we don't really have much time pre-game when we are out there. Well, our job is to get content for after the game. And I think our primary job is to make the connections. We work in a very, very old-fashioned machine. UEFA are so slow, and they've been objecting to exactly that, what CBS has turned out to be, and they've been fighting against not necessarily UEFA at the top, but the people they send out to run the venues. They are not on board 100% with what we do. So our job is to connect with these people, befriend them, respect them, thank them, give them a hug when we meet them. Oh, it's good to see you. All of that in order to
get them on side.
Exactly, get them on side.
Trust you.
And get, exactly. We've had issues with certain people around. I think a lot of people have seen when Jamie went to Dortmund and it was in the yellow wall, and it was really, really good TV, and it was really good social content. It was. The problem there, it was the worst venue that he could do that at.
Can I give context real quick? So we went to Dortmund. Peter went to Dortmund with Jamie. We talked about the yellow wall in advance on our show. Yeah. Jamie on the show said, I'm going to go into the yellow wall.
It was on his bucket list, wasn't it?
It was like, and we said it publicly, and UEFA in advance said, we don't allow that. You can't do that. Pre-game, Jamie's now in Germany with Peter. Can't wait to go up in the yellow wall. UEFA's in no uncertain terms tell us you cannot go up there against the rules. Game starts. There goes Jamie, and Peter's there alongside him.
I didn't go into the yellow wall.
You were alongside him that day.
So at halftime, this is interesting because UEFA said no. They said no. It's not their call. The club said yes. They wanted it. Of course, they know what CBS is at this point, and it's important for a club like Dortmund, who has done really well in the Champions League, but doesn't have the Bayern Munich, the Barcelona, the PSG, doesn't have that kind of name. So of course they want that. They know what's going to happen next. They know how the exposure. All of that is brilliant. And the yellow wall is a big, big thing. It is a big thing, and it's a proud thing for Dortmund. So of course. So at halftime, so mind you, the club said yes. At halftime, we go down and do our hit, and Jamie comes out from the yellow wall up to our station. And I asked the cameraman to turn the camera so we have the yellow wall in the background, and Jamie can point out where he is. Now, this guy, it's gotten better with him now, but this guy...
He's a UEFA official.
Yeah. Okay. This guy has been a problem every time we've been there. Every time we've been...
He's German, right? Or
he's German.
Yeah.
So it has to be... So we are about 20 meters from the yellow wall, so towards the goal, and he stood with his clipboard by the tunnel. And so the camera is pointing to the yellow wall, and I can see the tunnel, and all of a sudden he sprints towards us, absolutely sprints toward, and we're live on TV. And he goes, "You're not allowed to do this." And I go, "We're live," and he's like this. And then we're finished, and he goes absolutely berserk. "You are not allowed to do that. The club has not given you permission." That's what he said. I said, "We have permission from the club. We don't have from UEFA," And he gets embarrassed and turns around and walks away. And then afterwards, obviously, in flash, you read, if you're not friends with these guys, if you're not you get nothing. And that day, we didn't get anything.
Yeah.
We didn't. We broke a few rules. We pushed a few boundaries that day.
But we did. And Matt will remember this. Matt and I are in the control room back in London, and we're watching all this develop. I'm the one that gets the emails from UEFA. I'm the one that's going to get, and Matt, I don't know if you remember this, but at one point we're watching, Jamie got drunk, literally, on air. I've never seen this before, and I am the boss of what's happening on the screen right now. And I'm looking at Matt, and we have drunken Jamie on the air. He's being loud. He broke every rule imaginable. And I'll never forget this. I look at Matt and I said, "Matt, this is unbelievable." but tomorrow is going to really suck. And it did. And we just basically, what we did was, I'm not speaking out of school here. I mean, you remember this. I don't know if you know this, Peter. We had a meeting with UEFA. They said, we have to talk. Yep. And before the meeting started, officially, I said, listen, we broke every rule. I can't excuse it. There's nothing I can say. Punish us. No. Punish us. Tell us we can't be pitch side for the next month, next 2 weeks. Whatever you want, I'll accept. We were bad. No, that's not the point. We just blah, blah, blah. Like, are you going to punish us or not? Or now I know that you know this is good for you. Yeah. You know this is good for you, but you need to play this role. So punish us. And they didn't punish us. And what's happened since then is now we've become, as Matt said, we're at the point now that we're turning players away because we can only do so many interviews. Anita, you've probably been in that position where like people see CBS and it's kind of like, I don't know if you, Peter's been there from day one, so you haven't had to fight as long as he has and we have, but have you seen the fruits of all of our labor in terms of like players just wanting to talk to you?
100%. And I just wanted to paint a picture for the audience because when you see post-match interviews, sometimes it can look quite slick, but it's like a pressure cooker because you are reacting to what's happened at the end of a game. Sometimes maybe there's been a red card or a team's turned a score line around, so it means the person that you thought was winning isn't winning. So all of a sudden, your line of questioning has to change. And the culture that they've built in the studio extends to us when we're pitch side. So they trust in us, they trust in our journalistic abilities to ask questions and press where need be. But it's so much pressure. There's so many people around the players. You've got their media officer, you've got a UEFA officer, you've got people around all the time. So you're trying to think of your question that you want to start off with. You're then trying to listen, which is something Matt's told me from day one. Listen, because it's so easy to go in with a prepared list of questions. But I think ultimately what's probably led to our success is that we listen and react. So
conversation.
Yeah, precisely. But it's in a very contrived situation. So it's hard to look natural and have a conversation with someone, make them feel at ease, especially if they've maybe lost. But more recently at the Europa Conference League final, I interviewed Cole Palmer and he's come over with his man of the match trophy in his pants. And I'm like, this is really odd. So like I've said what's come to my mind and that I guess that's what's at the forefront of my mind all the time is like, if I'm at home and I'm seeing this unfold, right, what would I ask? And so I asked him like that's a bit of an odd position to have your trophy. Like this is not normal behavior here. And Cole being Cole, yeah, go for it.
He's standing there, she's interviewing him, and he's got his trophy like this. You have to say something. How do you avoid it?
And so the ability to feel strong enough to ask those questions is what I guess they've given us. Yeah. And then Peter mentioned an interview with Mikel Arteta. It was after Arsenal were beaten by PSG. I am a real big Arsenal fan, so that was a really awkward moment. But again, I listened, as Matt said, and the line of answers I was being given weren't coherent. And then CBS didn't even share the interview. Somebody else did. Someone put it on X, and then all of a sudden it blew up. And Mikel Arteta is being questioned about his views on the game, whether he lies a lot. And so it's really interesting to see how they don't even need to share a clip and it can still go worldwide and make headlines.
Anita's really underplaying her part there. So if you imagine the end of a Champions League semi-final, there's 50 broadcasters. 50 people. Mikel Arteta has probably done 50 interviews at that point. Difficult interviews. They've just lost in the Champions League semi-final. Of all those interviews, the one that went viral was Anita's. And yes, we have a little bit of a reputation and you see all the fun stuff that we do, which we're absolutely proud of. Would never kind of compromise on that. But there's a balance. Somebody's just lost a semi-final. We're clearly not going to try and make somebody laugh at that point. And Anita's interview was just brilliant because Arteta said some things that were at best questionable. And so Anita was listening and heard these things, and you might have a list of prepared topics that you've got to get to. They just go out the window because what Arteta's just said needs questioning, let's say. Let's put it politely. And Anita did that. And so, the reputation of all the kind of fun stuff, I loved that moment because that was one of our big viral moments of that week. And it was a really solid 2.5 minute journalistic interview. So well done.
Yeah, I think what's interesting as you watch television, sports television from this point forward, for those of you that haven't been in our environment and know what we're dealing with, I think you'll look at those interviews very differently. You'll see 1 or 2 people on camera. You don't see the 15 people standing around. The team's communications director listening to every word. UEFA person looking at their watch.
They're actually
They're like this,
recording every word.
They're recording every
Yeah, they're
word.
recording on, yeah.
So these two are live on the air for millions of people, interviewing a player that just either won or lost. There's people standing around them, hovering over every word, waiting for them to make a mistake. We're in their ear. You got to rap. You got 15 seconds. You got to go. You got to go. You have the pressure of the moment. I mean, it's just incredible. And now what we've done is we've created a monster in not only in the studio, but what you guys have done. To the point, I'd like to share one quick story. It's super fast, but it would be relatable to this team, to this group of people. You guys weren't there. I was with Thierry. We sent Thierry to the Emirates for the Arsenal Real Madrid game, and Declan Rice scores 2 goals. It was very recent. One of Arsenal, if not Arsenal's greatest win in that new stadium. It was a magical night for Arsenal. So now I'm with Thierry. We go down to the position, and I'm standing outside the room. Thierry's interviewing Declan Rice. We have other Arsenal players coming. Real Madrid just lost a really heartbreaking game. UEFA official comes over and says, you have Luka Modric next. I said, Luka Modric? We didn't ask for Luka. We would never ask for Luka Modric after a loss. 5 years ago, it was science fiction for us to get a Real Madrid player in any scenario. They would laugh at us. Now Real Madrid just lost, and you're telling me Luka Modric wants to come on. Because I looked at him, I said, we didn't ask for him. Well, he wants to come on. I'm like, they just lost. It's like, I don't believe it. So then next thing you know, I looked down a hallway. Here comes Luka Modric walking by all those other 50 broadcasters right to us, right after a tough loss. Said hello, ba, and there he went in. It's just incredible what it's become. But like what I want to ask just for the end though, we've talked a little bit about those good moments and bad moments, the toughest moments. Is there one moment in the 5 years, your 3 years, that really stands out as a proud moment in our coverage?
Well, I'd like to say nearly every time because it really is. It's actually really impressive what's been done with this program, because when you're there, you actually feel how successful it is. So I won't say UEFA are difficult to work with, but they are a little bit sort of old-fashioned on the ground. Don't really get the way this program is working, but we are moving closer and closer to our number 1 position. So the Champions League winners this season, PSG, they have us right at the first one station they see when they come off the pitch, the players, it's ours. Every single player walks past our station. And I would say, Anita, correct me if I'm wrong, minimum of half of them, they stop and say hello. Yeah. And that is a power we have with this show now. I have Donnarumma coming over to him after his warm-up in the final. He warms up for, it's the biggest game of his life. And then he walks and he spots us, he comes over. And that's, I think, this is what I'm mostly proud of, is that relationship that we've built with the people that we're covering. I don't see that with any other broadcaster. I don't.
Just before Anita answers, because Anita's got a good little story there. I get so impressed by Peter, because let's not forget, this is a second career, right? I don't know if you may remember, he was quite good at football a few years ago.
In a second language.
Yeah, exactly the point. So Peter gets to a certain age, decides he wants to broadcast, has learned a whole new number of skills. And sometimes the bit that we forget is Peter, same as Thierry, arguably Jamie as well, are doing all this in a second language. And yeah, I can't applaud you enough for that. And I think Anita, talking about languages, Anita's got a similar high point I think she wants to tell you about.
So obviously working with Kate, who's in the building here, she is the queen of languages. I can't claim to speak as many languages as her, but I'm grateful I speak a couple of others, Spanish and Catalan. The fact, again, I mentioned that they give us such freedom. I wasn't directed to do this, but it was instinct, and I thought, I don't think I'll get a bollocking from my boss if I do this. But last season in Real Madrid's run to the final, they beat Manchester City. They were the underdogs. They managed to turn it around. It went to penalties, and Jude Bellingham came to talk to us. And in the spur of the moment, I just thought, you know what? Let me ask him how his Spanish is going in Spanish. And he reacted really well and answered what he could. And that was another viral moment. So yeah, to be able to have my language skills there, and again, lent on Kate in other instances like this season, interviewing Lamine Yamal. She's done a live translation. So yeah, just those moments where we're able to show how, I guess, global we are in
Which
reach.
gets you respect, without doubt, as well.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, we do have a couple minutes for questions.
I'll take the opportunity. There's somebody there, but I think this is really important just to ask you quickly, all of you. Since the show has been growing so immensely, and some even consider it the greatest football show that's ever been televised.
Correct.
I would say yes, by the way.
How do you have in somewhere in the back of your mind, like the jumping the shark moment?
Yeah, of course.
How do we keep on doing this, pushing this, keep it interesting, but not overdo it? Because that's the trap of many successful shows in many different areas. So how do you battle that? Do you have meetings where you go?
Yeah, I have an expression. We have to take our foot off the gas. So very, very conscious of jumping the shark is a term for those that don't know. It's from an old sitcom. Basically, you're popular and then you sort of become a cliche of yourself, and you sort of ruin the whole brand. And it's like, okay, that's over. The jumping the shark moment is when it's all right. That's over. So I'm very conscious of that. Super conscious. It's a great question. We will have moments where we have a crazy show like Dortmund, and then I'll tell Matt, all right, foot off the gas. So next few shows, basic. There'll be some moments that organically happen, but nothing contrived, nothing that we orchestrate. We will orchestrate stuff like Breast was a segment. This is a segment that we orchestrated that went viral. We will do stuff like that. But to your point, I'm very, very conscious of it, and Matt knows. In those moments where I feel like we're getting to a point, this feels like we're getting a little bit contrived and feels a little bit, let's do a football show. So we're very, very aware. I'm super aware of that. It's a great question.
So I think we had somebody there ready for the next question.
Yeah, so it works. Now it's easy to say, it looks great, you sound great, everything's good. But years ago there was idea. So like in a sport, you need a team to win. Obviously you had idea, not the team yet. So how did you find the great people? How did you choose who is the one for you? How did you build the team that you currently have?
Yeah, so the criteria for me, the way it started was it was COVID. We got it very quickly. How about this guy, my son right here, holding a microphone? Look at this handsome fellow over here. That's enough. It's about me, not him. Let's go. All right, so in 2020, we started in the middle of COVID, and basically my company does traditional American sports. No one in the company knows this sport on any level, nowhere near the level that I know it, grew up with it. So they basically said, run with it. Here's your budget, here's the thing, go do your thing. So my number one criteria was for talent, for personalities, was I didn't want anyone that had already been on television in America. I didn't want just repeats. And now it's easy to do. It's like, who does TV in America? So we wanted to be original across the board. The one exception was Kate. That was truly, she was right out the gate. All right, we got to find out what Kate Abdo, now Kate Scott, what's her situation? Let's go get her. She's been on TV in America. I'll make an exception for her. Everyone else had to be someone that was new to the American public. So right there was starting fresh. I didn't want to do anything that felt, I've seen them already. Peter, this is actually interesting. You probably know this story. The way I discovered Peter, and I did a lot of research. We had a team, 2 people at CBS that we were researching, round the clock, looking. I think you know this. So after 2018 final, Croatia-France, the handball against Perisic, Peter was on, what channel were you on for that? For 2018 World Cup?
RT.
So Peter, it's on YouTube, was super, super critical of the ref's decision on the penalty against Perisic. And I watched this analysis. I don't know if I ever told you the story. And I watched that analysis in my research of finding people. And I was a goalkeeper myself. I grew up a goalkeeper. So I have a special place where I think that perspective matters. So reached out to Peter Schmeichel, said, hey, I'm so-and-so from American TV. We're doing Champions League. That's how we got him. And then Jamie Carragher. Each one of them has a story. But anyway, to your point, you put people together. You try to find the right combination. Sometimes you're lucky, not good. I want to say this is part luck, part good, but we put these guys together in a room, and it was magic from the first meeting. So, but that was the only thing I would say was a criteria. I didn't want to use anyone that had been on TV in America before. But yeah, that was the tape. I remember watching that where I liked everything you were saying, Peter. It wasn't a handball.
I get that.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions? Anyone else? Yeah, in the back.
So, great panel. Sticking with the theme with Dortmund, the Gelbe Wand, the yellow wall. Can you share any plans maybe for next year's World Cup?
Well, we don't do the World Cup. For the World Cup, you said? Yeah, we don't, thank God, we don't cover the World Cup. But for Champions League, we're always looking for ideas if anyone has any. I'm here all weekend. I don't care where the idea comes from. If it's a good idea, I'll take it. If it works, I'll take credit. If it doesn't, I'll just blame that person. That's the greatest part about Matt, actually. The funny thing about Matt's in England, and we do the show in London, and I live in America and go back and forth. So when I go back to CBS, and great job. Anytime anything gets screwed up, I'm like, yeah, I know Matt, the guy I work with in London. So it's nice to have Matt alongside me. But no, we don't do the World Cup, but we will always be thinking about new ideas for Champions League.
Great panel, thank you. Speaking of new ideas, studio shows can be challenging in a world of live sports, driving the business of sports media. Clearly, you've found great success. There's an old saying, the smart borrow from the strong. What are sort of your models that you're borrowing pieces of to develop your
I've been very public
system.
about this. Inside the NBA was the inspiration for our show. I've been public about it. I don't hide it. They opened the doors. We couldn't do what we do without Inside the NBA. I give them all the credit in the world. Just coincidentally, things are meant to happen. Things sometimes happen for a reason. Just before we got Champions League, I actually produced a 4-part series for Turner about the 30-year anniversary of Inside the NBA. So I just spent months telling their story right before we started. I mean, you want to talk about inspiration. So Inside the NBA, 1,000,000% was our inspiration. It's the greatest sports show ever. We're not, they are. The fact that we get compared to them, to me, is the ultimate compliment. But Inside the NBA, full stop, that's it. They were the inspiration.
We have time for one more? We have time for one more question in the back, yeah.
Perfect, just a quick one. First of all, wanted to say that it's really empowering to listening to all of you guys. And I want to jump back on the last question because I honestly had to hear the story about hiring Mika Richards. Is it possible to share with us some details of that?
One's probably better.
Yeah, the Jamie one's good too. So what happened with Michael was, again, in that time in summer 2020, height of COVID, I was looking at a lot of tape. Michael Richards had just retired, and I was sent the tape from his agent. It was his BBC appearance. Very dry, very boring, very straight. And I basically said, to my guys, tell them thanks, no thanks, maybe come back in a couple of years. Kept doing my research, came across a podcast. I think it was Peter Crouch's podcast, looking at Peter Crouch. And it was a podcast format, not BBC. And his guest was Micah Richards. And I'm watching Peter Crouch, and I'm listening to Micah Richards, and I'm like, how is this the same person? So I call back CBS. I say, hey, remember Micah Richards? They're like, yeah, well, let's talk to him. They're like, really? I said, yeah, I have a feeling. I need to ask him a question. So we would get on Zooms with people. With Peter, we got on Zooms. And we just met Micah Richards on a Zoom. And I said to Mike, I said, listen, we're with CBS, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to cut right to it. I've seen you on BBC, and I've seen you on the Peter Crouch podcast. Can you do the Peter Crouch podcast on TV. Pete, are you kidding me? That's what I want to do. They don't let me do that. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, now we can talk. So that basically was, he was put in a box. When he was on television, they were putting him in a box. This is how you do TV. This is how you talk. This is how you present. You have 15 seconds. We wanted to just him to be himself. And that's why he's different with us than he is with anybody else. I'd like to think that we let our personalities actually be personalities.
I think one really important thing to point out there is probably the question that you've probably heard Micah say, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? Pete and I often get asked, like, who's the most least replaceable? Who's your favorite and whatever, which obviously we swerve at every available opportunity. But Micah, and I'm not speaking out of turn here, Micah's heard me say this many times. Micah doesn't really have the footballing CV to be on Champions League finals. But we work in broadcasting. We don't work in football. We work in broadcasting. And Micah Richards is an elite broadcaster. One of the things that I'm kind of quite big on, and we've kind of done as a team, is everyone respects Peter's career. Everyone respects Thierry's career. It's kind of out there for everyone. We have to build that. We have built that respect for Micah the other way, because Micah's abilities as a broadcaster, nobody else has. Nobody else has that. Nobody brings what Micah brings to the show. And Thierry was Micah's hero when he was growing up. They'd never met apart from kind of playing on a football pitch. And so I sort of took it upon myself to kind of make sure that this respect kind of went from Thierry to Micah, which has probably gone a little bit too far now, hasn't it? Because they phone each other about 20 times a day and FaceTimes at inappropriate moments. Yeah, which I'm so like, yeah, we're so proud. We're so proud of Micah to have, you know, we take the, Kate takes the mick out of him. We take the mick out of him, you know, in the 5 Champions League appearances and whatever. But I say to him, take that as a positive, you know. There's somebody who doesn't have the playing career to kind of sit where you are, but look where you are. Take pride in it.
Kate, I'm disappointed that you don't have a question for us. Is the microphone anywhere near Kate?
Yeah,
you gotta
I was
come
just
up
about to
with
ask. Kate has a question.
I thought I was on the panel. So I thought I would have had a bunch of questions.
Bench, Kate, bench.
Yeah.
I know.
You have more. You have too much work later. We don't want to bother you.
Kate,
I don't know
when
if you
was
have
the last time?
As a close, I don't know if Kate, if you wanted to ask Peter, Anita, anybody, any questions or any comments, your thoughts on the panel.
Oh gosh. I guess.
Put you on the spot.
It's funny because it's called the best seat in the house, which I always consider my seat, which is in the studio. But I think for a lot of people in the room, probably the best seat in the house is your guys' seat, Peter and Anita, because you get to be there live in person and see everything from up close. Is that how it feels to you, Anita? I'm interested because I know that you switch between the 2 roles. Do you like being out there in the field, or are you coming for my job?
She's asked me in front of everyone.
Oh, yeah. Yes to number 2.
No, I'm not coming for your job. I do enjoy both. I think also what's really interesting about CBS is the kind of people they're giving opportunities to. As a young woman of colour who doesn't have a footballing background, it's kind of unprecedented to be in the position I'm in the UK scene. And so I don't take that for granted. I always prep, as Matt knows, and I'm always trying my best. So yeah, I do love being there and being alongside a treble winner, someone who's always stopped for pictures. It doesn't go beyond me. It's always a privilege to be with you, Peter.
Yeah, and that goes 2 ways. I have to say, I think we're at the end here.
Yeah, we're at the end.
What's really interesting from my perspective, obviously, I've done studio work for so many years. I'm 25 years into doing media. And studio is great. I really have enjoyed, you know, every appearance, and I still do a little bit for Premier League production. But I really do enjoy being out there and actually watching games and seeing stuff that is impossible to see on a TV screen. So just an example is the winners from last Saturday, PSG. I've been very critical about them all the time. Whereas in the studio, Michael, you know, he's had the heroes. Kylian, you know, Kylian, my friend, and I'm looking at the games, I'm seeing they will never win with Kylian and Messi and Neymar. They're never going to win. Never, because you cannot in modern day football. You can't play with 7 players working hard and 3 players not doing anything unless they have the ball. Now, when I watched them against Man City in January, so Kylian's gone, they're all gone. I looked at a team that was a team, and they're all working really hard, exemplified by Dembélé, what he did in the final, working really, really hard for the team. And I looked at it and I'm thinking, that is the best team in Europe right now. And I've said this consistently on the program, where I've met a little bit of resistance from the studio because you watch it on a TV screen. So this is what I really do enjoy. And the last thing I want to say is, I started doing what we call Viaplay Premier Sunday for Viaplay, which is originals from Scandinavia. So this is Premier League. So what they've done is they've taken 6 territories. So it's Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Poland, and Holland. And we're doing it in English from the sideline. And now I won't say that what we're doing is modeled on what we do with CBS, but it's definitely a massive inspiration. And thinking so far out of the box, how do we produce a program where we have access to players, where we're not Viaplay Norway number 7 in the queue, and that is based on what we do. I know the producer, he watches, whatever we can, and they nicked one of my interviews from Saturday.
Really?
Kvaratskhelia, yeah.
Lawsuit.
They showed it. They showed us, by the way, our little walk on the pitch.
Yeah.
We never showed that, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
The best compliment we get across the board is when Jamie, Micah, or others come back to us and say they're in a meeting at Sky, they're in a meeting at their networks, and they literally say the words, "How can we be more like CBS?" That's you can't get better than that. So hopefully we don't jump the shark.
It's going. I just want to say it's the way it's going now because it's tacking in. So I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old in my house. I have a son who's been in the game. He's at the end of or maybe his career. I hear what they're saying. It's tacking into how they see the world, and we are the only one doing it like that. And I think that is a strength that we've actually managed to, in reality, produce new customers for football.
For sure.
That's what we're doing.
Hopefully this was interesting. Thank you guys very much. You have a question? Oh, Tomo.
A quick one.
One of our founders has a question, so we can't say no.
Absolutely.
Just tell us about location from where you create this highly successful program.
Oh, yeah.
What was the location?
Yeah. Oh, my God. I forgot about that. All right, so it was 2020. That is, wow. So this show that's now become a global hit, the very, very, very beginnings, summer 2020, it is COVID, hardcore COVID in America. Everything is shut down. For me to go to England, I would need to quarantine for 2 weeks if I came from America. But if I come from Croatia, at that point, it's still a green zone. So I can spend 2 weeks in Croatia, anywhere, and go to London for the studio, or I can go from America to a hotel room for 2 weeks. So all of these Zooms with Peter and all of these Zooms that I prepped this show for those 2 weeks happened in Zadar. I didn't even think of that. So this show actually originated in Zadar, technically, from an Airbnb here. Are we on Polotok? It's pretty crazy. I never thought about that. So yes, really good observation, but this show originated in Zadar, you could say. It's pretty wild. So thank you guys very much. Really good point. I forgot about that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.